Hey, and welcome to the Den Code Podcast. Today we are going to start right up. So, as we get going more and more into these series, we're going to start seeing exactly where this is leading towards. That being, I want to give so that everybody's more empowered and trusting in themselves. So to start off today, I'm going to start with the wagon analogy. Last time I started with Dr. Seuss, today's the wagon analogy. So the wagon analogy is we always load all day and we put things into this wagon all day. Whether it's working out, whether it's our life, we never deload. So we load, and then when the wheels break, we load it some more and we wonder why it doesn't work. So this idea the reason why I bring this up is I believe that it's going to benefit everybody by thinking of different ways to deload. So today's podcast is kind of just off the cuff, off the top of my head, great theories that I've come up with in the last week and ideas. So that's one of them. I think that, and I bring this up in my personal training all the time, and that there's a time to deload and we need to deload. And then we are going to gain more actually from deloading. A lot of people don't do that and we end up fatiguing out and we don't stick with the programs. So this podcast, I believe, is going to empower, and I know it's just been up for a little while now, but I think that these type of ideas can really help us out. So the wagon analogy I do bring into everyday life just because I do think that we can all benefit from realizing that there are certain situations where we need to take a step back and stop blaming ourselves and stop thinking that just work is going to fix it. Sometimes there's a little release time. We've talked about this in the past where it's your time. I think that the podcasting itself is a good way for myself to vent and share my ideas, and I think that a lot of people, if you have to video log or do however, talk to yourself and figure it out, have your own time. I believe that talking to you guys also is a good benefit, and I think that in the last little while here, a lot of people have reached out to me and said how great and how this is making them feel and how the mental side of things is great to touch on. So today, let's get into it. Den Code Podcast. Today's topic, I'm going to just keep nitpicking on things that I see and I see failing why. And people are so close, we're at the door and we just need to take a step through and we don't. That type of idea. So why? So I think that a lot of people out there today, honestly, I am going to say this, are really starting to become very much about self, which is good. There's time to do that. But I think that there's also time to give a bit. And I think that that is kind of the lost thing nowadays. And I think that when we're always take, it's that mentality, the disposable society, where we take, if it's broken, just get a new. That's a lot of people nowadays, and that's why we burn out. We wonder when we switch from 5 different things why it doesn't work. For instance, diets. Everybody wonders why. We also wonder why we don't stick with relationships when we're just switching around. It's so easy accessed with all the things nowadays, and we wonder why it doesn't work because we don't want to fix what's there. We want to just move on because it's broken. There's like a little component broken and we want to move on. It's crazy. So I really do think that those type of ideas, if you can think of, you know what, if it's worth it, if something's worth it in life, you're gonna have to fight for it, and it's not gonna just be easy and you can't just switch from thing to thing. I do think that the idea of this disposable society is changing the way we think, and I think that people are they think that they're self-reliant, and they think that I am more independent, but we're always looking at our phone. We're always too busy to hang out with the people that mean the most to us. And I think that these type of ideas are really changing the way our society works. Is that small group mentality is kind of gone, and that I talked about earlier. And it's crazy because we don't have time for the people, but the people that we contact the most, they don't even want to see us as much because it's through Facebook or Instagram and all these ideas that they're our real friends, when really your real friends are the people that you see in real life. And that's why I encourage people to either reach out to me, phone, text, message, try to get in a contact rather than just liking things and stuff on Facebook. Like, sure, it's awesome to like this on YouTube, but really the best way is to reach out and talk to me. And I think that that's the best because you know what, liking, subscribing and stuff is amazing. I'm not going to bash that, but I think that the best way for you to get the most out of a podcast is try to contact the creator and see, you know what, I didn't agree with this. I did agree with this. think that can really help out. I think nowadays you do need to get that real life contact, and I think that if all you're doing is liking and you're commenting and you're the keyboard warrior and you're sitting behind things, I think that's a problem, and I think that happens a lot nowadays. And I think that the more we work on this, the more we can actually strengthen ourselves. So today's podcast is kind of just off the cuff. Like I said, I was thinking about a lot of these things all week at work, and I think that times have changed. So that disposable society has really changed how we think and how we work for things, and how that we don't fix things anymore. We just move on to the next thing. So think about something that in the recently that's happened to you that way, and I think that that idea will really change your life. I think the other thing is when you're looking at the ideas and moving forward, how do I strengthen my life, how do I become stronger, that's a great way to do it. You do a little bit of, you become more self-reliant when you actually take a step back and see where you're at, rather than just relying on your social media feeds, and when you are just going from thing to thing rather than fixing and strengthening things. It's called the spaghetti theory in training. Is when the bad trainers, or the trainers who do not know what they're doing, most of the time are going to give you a ton of exercises, tons of different ones. You go see them 10 times, they're going to give you 10 different workouts. And some people are like, oh, he's amazing because they bring all of this. But you know what? At the end of the day, those trainers aren't the best for you, because you have become a master of nothing. And it's kind of, and the reason it's called the spaghetti is we threw it at the wall and we're hoping something sticks. We're so hoping you know 100 exercises, but you're not good at any of them because we did them once. So the theory in my life is you take it back, you introduce a little bit of new every time, but we go back to a base and we have something that you're familiar with. So you have that success, we build on that, and then we introduce new things so we can really build on things. That's my idea. Rather than, and it applies to this, is where you go from, rather than just going completely new, fix what you're working with, introduce a bit new. Even in a relationship, that's a good way to fix a broken relationship. Fix on that, but don't just spend 100% of the time doing stuff like that, like worrying about the past and how we're going to fix this. Do a percentage of the time on that, and then move forward and have a new activity or something that you do together. Try that. I think those ideas, and I think that that's a good way to set yourself up. I also think that the spaghetti theory we use everyday life. People think that if I tell you 100 things, I'm a genius, but I don't know any of them to a higher level. So I know a lot of things about training, and I know, and that's my business, and I find that if I can get more knowledge to a higher level, I'm way stronger for you. And I think that that's kind of the idea behind it, is you want to get to that higher level. Really, you do. You want to become an apex predator in your business. You want to become uncommon among uncommon people. I heard this by David Goggins on Joe Rogan's, and I really believe in that, is if you can become uncommon among uncommon people. He was a Navy SEAL, and he was talking about how once you become a Navy SEAL, you become common because everybody is, and then you want to become uncommon among them. So that is, be you. Always push yourself and work on you, rather than just give up on things and move to the next thing. That spaghetti theory somewhat. I like to apply those two things together, because I do think that a lot of people, whether it's a spaghetti theory or a complete changeover idea, a new car idea, where you're switching from thing to thing rather than becoming an expert and working on things. Because when you work and grind away on something and you really do well, you will be that much happier with yourself. That uncommon among uncommon people thing really stood out to me, and it was a great idea, because you're always wanting to work, and in my field, personal training, I want to become uncommon among personal trainers. I want to be the elite. I want to be that apex predator. I want to be the top. And the way you do that is you strengthen yourself and you work on things, and that's the only way to do it. And I think that that applies to everybody, and I think that this podcast is going to get on a higher level just because of that. I think that everybody here, we can empower ourselves, and we surround ourselves around people that empower us. I think that that idea of becoming an apex predator and becoming the best in your group of whatever you do and pushing yourself will pay off in the long term for you. I think that the apex predator model, honestly, if you look at any apex predator in the world, you got to work. It's not an easy job, and you got to work, and you got to grind. And I think that, like, if you think of a bear, or you think of all of these animals, there's always other things out there, but they know what they are. and they're going to work on it, and they're going to take care of themselves. And I think that is a key point as well, is you do need to take care of yourself, and you kind of have to let go and stop caring what other people think. I think that so much now is people are unhappy with themselves, and they're talking, and they're always trying to bring you down, and they're trying to talk about how their life isn't great, so I'm going to bring you down with it. And it's a sinking ship, some people would say, but you know what? Everybody can be saved. But you can't invest your entire life into saving other people, because then there's no you time. There's a time to work with people and really grind and help them out. But negativity and that pulling you down, you have to be able to identify that. And how we do that is strengthening yourself. You can't help anybody else if you can't help yourself. I think that is the type of idea that I really like to get onto a higher level with. And I think that if you think what you want in the future, how are you going to get it, and how are we going to change this, and how we're going to think of the positives in life, and how in this podcast alone, how can I improve? And you know what, I looked back on some of mine in the past. I used to podcast, and how I could increase my language, and how I could think about things and challenge things and push things. And a topic that I always hear as well is the marijuana debate here in Alberta, where they're legalizing it in Canada, and how we're going to. And I think that it's another one of those things that I should talk about, and I'm going to talk about it right now. Honestly, is I'm not pro or against, but my theory is it's a very reliant. I think I've always noticed that in anything, I think you can get addicted to sugar. And I think that you can get addicted to, honestly, almost anything. And I think marijuana is one of those. And I find that most people who smoke it on numerous occasions. So they are not self-reliant anymore. They're relying on a stimulant. And this applies exactly to it. And then we wonder why mental health. And you know what? People are going to challenge us and be like, marijuana's benefits, and they're going to put it all in there. But you're not self-reliant if you're constantly doing things that are affecting you. And I think that can really change the way that we look at things, and how we can really, if you aren't taking care of yourself and substances are running your life, and I think sugar is one too. So if you want to comment on that, people, like if you think that it's a real challenge here, that and you want to put benefits out there, I think sugar is, I think marijuana is, I think alcohol is, I think there's a ton of things you can get addicted to. My idea is you want to become self-reliant. I don't want to be ran by anything. The only thing you need is fat, carbs, and protein. And at the end of the day, that's even questionable in how much you need of certain things. You have to make sure that your diet's yours, not somebody else's cookie cutter to you. So you have to make sure that it's actually for you. And I think that those ideas, and the only reason I brought that up is because that's a trending topic here in Canada right now. And I think that people are so pro or so against, they don't look at that in between as, you know what? I'm not pro or against. I'm just saying the self-reliance itself is, you're losing it if you do it every day, and you do it 10 times a day, and you're never not high. And that's where my thing is. You're not really self-reliant. You're not the best you if you're relying on a substance. The next topic, though, I think that I'd like to get into today is something positive rather than a lot of deep things. So we're going to take a little breather here. And the thing is, I'm going to talk about The Sandlot. I think that this movie, tonight I'm actually watching it, and The Sandlot's a great film. And if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's about this kid that gets introduced into this new kind of community. There's this group where he walks by this baseball field where there's 9 kids playing baseball. They need one more. He goes out. Most people don't want him. And I'm not going to ruin it all, but it is an older film. And then there's this one kid that accepts and try to introduce him into the group, and they see the benefits down the road, all the others. It's a great film. It's cool, brings you back. It's kind of nostalgic. You have the kid ideas and the cool where they just worry about baseball all day. And the last podcast where I was saying where we really introduce about kids and where we lose it. And that's one of the things I love, going back to some old films like this. And you know what? Just let loose and enjoy something like that. And I think that movie was that for me, and I enjoyed that. So that was kind of just something I was going to throw into this podcast. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. It's a great summer movie. Back to topic time, though, like where we want to become self-reliant, and we want to become that person that fixes things rather than just running from thing to thing. The broken wagon theory, the spaghetti theory, all those that I've talked about already. So the idea that I'm trying to say is we want to become a little bit strong. And we want to become a little bit calloused in the brain where we can take on situations. So if we're always just jumping from thing to thing, we're not going to fix that. And you need to be able to fix things. And I think that that's the biggest thing. In anything in life, you are stronger. And I think that if you're not contracting, if you're not going and getting people to do your jobs, you are stronger. There are times to do them if you aren't comfortable, but I think that this applies to life. I think that it's you're going to fix it. Nobody else is going to fix your life, and you need to fix them. You need to be your contractor. You need to fix it today. You need to get that mental health in and work on yourself. And you can only change you. You can help others, but you can only change you. You can't worry about what general society does or people. So you do need to focus on yourself. Today's a real good one, and it's a long weekend here. So focus on yourself, get it right, hang out with family, and try to get back to what you were or what you want to be. And challenge yourself to fix things rather than just bouncing around from thing to thing. I tend to look back in time and you think of things that, you know what, when you were immature and you weren't as strong, and you think that I could have fixed this, I could have worked on this, and then what shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? So you need to think of what the future, and when the next time that situation comes up, how we're going to strengthen it, and always deload and that wagon. And we've talked about it in previous podcasts. If you need that time for yourself, you need that, whether it's working out, running, whatever it is, to get back to who you are. And I think that that's a big thing, and I think that that can really set you up for success so that you don't burn out. So we get a little deload on the wagon. Also, that spaghetti theory that we talked about earlier, always remember that you need to introduce new things, but you also need to strengthen what was there. You don't just want to do 100% new. And I think that that strengthening part is where people are missing out nowadays. I think you do need to. And I think you go back to things and you strengthen them. Just because you're weak in an area doesn't mean we don't ever go into that area. We do need to strengthen that area up. And I think that if we can do that, we can really change our lives. I think going forward with the theories of your life, you need to be able to identify where you go down the wrong road. A lot of negativity, it's finding the trail. There was two parts and you went either right or left, and you went the wrong one or you went the right one, and it sets you up for your next situation. So you can always go back down a road though, right? And that's why I like that, is some people think that you can't. You can somewhat, you can fix things, maybe not 100%, but you can go back down. And if you can't go back down that road, you might come up again, and you can take the other road now because you're stronger, rather than doing the same mistakes over and over again. Sometimes you get that opportunity to go back though. I think that when you're on the highest level in your life, when you're at the peaks, you know what? That's the time that you enjoy. But do you grow? I think the time that you grow the most are those valleys, which we talked about before. And I think that that is where you become what you will be when you're on the top of the mountain. I think that fixing things, and like the wagon we talked about earlier, where you put a little work into it and you deload it and you fix the wheel so it can go, and you're always taking care of it rather than just running it to its end, and when it breaks then you got to fix it again. You can always then also, so when we're saying working on things, is, you know what, if something's broken, if you work on it and you identify where, maybe next time it doesn't break, and you can keep it going and you can strengthen it. And I think those ideas that can really set us up for success in our life. I think that the mental side of things, when we talk about it once a year, isn't enough. And I think that people, if you want the best out of them, you need to empower them. I think the crutch idea, here's one more for the day. I know I've put a lot in here. The crutch idea. You need to identify when people are just making you feel like you're nothing without them, rather than the empowerment. You want to be empowered when you're hanging out with people, rather than, I don't have a good feeling other than when I'm with them, and I can't work out without them. You want to be empowered so that you can do things on your own and be strong, rather than always relying on other people. And I think that the crutch idea, a lot of people use it, and they use it for a horrible idea, is you don't feel good unless you're with them, so then you pay and all this money thing. It's used in training, it's used in everything, and I don't agree with it. I think that you need to empower people, and we need to change the way the world works. And I think that we have to, rather than a crutch, you need to empower and build the leg up. And when that leg is good now, the crutch is gone, and you shouldn't have a crutch for your entire life. If there's a time where they need to lean on you, true, crutch, month, 2 months, however long, but you need to be able to empower somebody in that time too. It's not a crutch forever. And I think that there's times where people lean on you, but a crutch theory is you are always on it, and that leg never strengthens. There is a time, and if somebody's in a deep dark spot, and sometimes you need to lean on somebody. I do believe that you can use a little time there, but I don't believe that it should be there for life. I think that even in that time, the crutch is paired with an empower, and then you get rid of the crutch and you go empowered. And that's my idea, is you need to empower people that are around you so that they're stronger, and you can teach them their situations. That's my job. You got to identify those people though that constantly make you feel less when you're not with them. Yes, sometimes it's like maybe they're a great person and they're just really a good booster, or maybe sometimes it's I can't do anything without them. Then you got to identify that you need you're great. It's not just them, and the time together is half them, half you. Think of it that way, and you're great, so half of you still there. You can do great things and you can change this world. And if you wake up in the morning sometimes and you ever think of things that I wish, stop it there and be like, what? It's a situation that's going to arise again, and I can do it. And I can believe in myself. So just remember that idea with the wagon and how the spaghettis, those are the 3 focuses for today. And the wagon, where we fix it and you keep it, and if it's broken once, you keep working on it, and then the next time we try to not let it break completely down, and when you have a little tough part, you keep it going and put the time into it and focus on some positives and some new things. The spaghetti, always work on things, rather than always just going to new 100% and throwing things at a wall and thinking that that's going to give you long-term success and great feelings. Because you know what? If you do something and work away for it for 5 years and it pays off in the end, you'll feel great. And that last one where we were talking about the crutch, just remember to be able to identify people and focus on you, and identify that you want to be empowered rather than leaning on people all the time. I think that will really set yourself up for success. Thank you for listening today, and have a great day, guys.